What's poppin', dogs? Mr. Allen here with some solving of radical equations. Get it? Radical, square root, radical, maths, radical. Anywho, and we're going to check for extraneous solutions. So what are extraneous solutions? Well, they are solutions that you got through proper algebraic steps, right? You solved everything correctly. Nice work. But they don't work in the original problem. And that can happen when you're dealing with functions that have domain restrictions. With radicals, we're not going to take the square root of a negative number. We'd get imaginary numbers, right? A square root is never going to equal a negative number either. So there's this potential for things to not work out. The same goes with rational functions. You can't divide by 0. So there's things that you're not allowed to do, which can cause an extraneous solution. We'll check it at the end for each one of these, and we'll see if we end up with one, okay? But the first step here is we want to get the radical by itself. That's the first major hurdle in solving a rational or radical equation here. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Let's do that. Add 5. And I get the square root of x squared plus 24 equals 5. How do I get rid of my radical? Well, I'm going to square both sides. That's the inverse operation of square rooting. Squaring will undo square rooting. So I got to square this side, but if I'm going to do that, I got to square that side. And I'll get x squared plus 24 equals 25. Now I can solve this thing in however I'd like to. I think I'm going to solve it by using square roots, because I can subtract 24 on both sides, get x squared equals 1, square root on both sides. I'm going to get x equals, what's the square root of 1? It's 1, but don't forget, when solving with square roots, it's plus or minus 1. Now, before I answer this, and before I circle this problem, right, circle this answer, I got to check it. If I plug 1 in, 1 squared is 1, plus 24 is 25. Square root of that is 5, minus 5 is 0. It works. Plug in negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1, plus 24 is 25. Square root of that's 5, minus 5 is 0. They both work. Bingo, bango. Had one of those provided a situation where it didn't work, we would eliminate that one and only have the other. Okay? Let's do this next problem here. Oh my goodness. This one's a little bit trickier. Okay? First major step, first hurdle here is getting the radical by itself. So let's do that. I'm just going to add the square root of x. And I get x minus 2 equals the square root of x. Now I can square this side to get rid of the radical, but whatever I do to one side, I have to do the entire other side. And I get x minus 2 squared is equal to x. So now what? Well, I'm thinking I need to expand this binomial, okay? Which means it's going to be like x minus 2 times x minus 2. You cannot distribute that exponent in to a binomial. It doesn't work that way. We got to multiply it all out. X times x is x squared. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. This is going to be negative 2x. So it's negative 4x. And then we have plus 4 equals x. Now I have a quadratic, but I also have some linear terms. So I'm thinking, set this one equal to 0, factor, solve for x. Okay, here I only had a quadratic term, only the x squared term. So I was able to use square roots to solve it, which is a little easier. So let's subtract x. I get x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Well, what multiplies to 4 and adds to negative 5? That would be negative 4 and negative 1. Those are going to add to negative 5 while multiplying to positive 4. We are factored. Now we can solve this thing. I'm going to get x equals positive 4 and x equals positive 1. But let's double check here and make sure these both work in my original problem. Here, I'd have, we'll do it in a different color here. We got a bit to plug in. I'd have 4 minus the square root of 4 minus 2. Does that equal 0? That's our question, right? Well, this is 4 minus 2 minus 2. That does equal 0. So that one checks out. We are good here. Now, let's check the other one with 1. So for this one, it's going to be 1 minus the square root of 1 minus 2. Does that equal 0? Well, this is going to be 1 minus 2. That's going to be, these cancel. I'm still off with negative 2 here, right? Does negative 2 equal 0? No, it doesn't. That is an extraneous solution, okay? So we got it through proper steps of solving this. But x equaling 1 does not work in the original equation here. So I have to eliminate it. The only working solution is x equals 4. Cool? That was great. One situation we have an extraneous solution, one where we did not. So you got to check it. It's the only way you can tell is by solving it and checking to see. All right? Well, there we go, guys. Any questions? Any questions? I don't see any hands. So I guess that we are done with this problem here. And I hope you liked it. Make sure you like it on the computer or the phone, right? Like it on the YouTube. And have a wonderful day and keep watching Dope Math Vids. See you later.